Welcome, welcome, welcome to our closing plenary, Bring It Together. I'm Yoshi Silverstein, founder and executive director of Mitsui Collective, and a proud Cleveland transplant. Even prouder after the last 48 hours. It was a joy to contribute to many elements of this conference as a consultant to the JPro22 team. Give it up for the entire team that made this possible. And as someone for whom creative expression through music, movement, and art has always been core to my personal and spiritual practice, I'm honored and delighted to open this closing session. On Monday, we began by looking back to March 2020 and beginning to weave together our stories. We then turned ourselves ahead to explore collaboration and how we can continue to grow and work in community. We grew in the hard skills needed for effective communication and practiced the deep work of relationship building and the art of building cultures of belonging and humility, of transformation and wholeness. We laughed, we played, and I'm willing to bet that many of us took some time to cry as well. It's been a long 2 years. In the passage through times of sorrow and crisis, we also find opportunities to co-create new possibilities for connection, meaning-making, and even sacredness. In the period following the Exodus from Egypt, the Israelites did this through construction of the Mishkan, the mobile, sacred space that served to ground and connect this newly emerging people. We call the designer of the Mishkan Bezalel. Imbued with the creative spirit of the divine, the name Bezalel can actually be interpreted as a contraction for the words that describe the creation of humans in the book of Genesis, B'Tselem Elohim, in the divine image. Each and every one of us holds that innate divinity at the core of our being. And when we come together and collaborate in the name of building spaces and experiences that are greater than any one of us could do alone, we are all Bezalel. We are all acting in the creative image of the divine. At the collaborative art area in the immersive space, hundreds of us did just that, contributing a sentence or two about what nourishes us in our work and what may blossom as a result of it. We then rolled those thoughts into tiny quills of paper to be combined into a one-of-a-kind community art project. As our resident artist educator, Ellie Wolf, says, when people come together, give it up for Ellie Wolf. Go ahead, yeah. When people come together to create one common object, something happens. In this case, that something was a work of art, a physical, collaborative celebration of color and texture, thought, and meaning. You took the time to make your contribution, and those contributions combined to create this work. As you can see, the theme of collaboration is present throughout this piece, not just in its conception and execution, but also in its visual representation, an abstract interpretation of the view from the ground looking up at a canopy of trees with sunlight streaming through. Trees in an ecosystem like this actually communicate with each other, everything from what dangers are present to where vital resources are scarce and must be reallocated. The trees depend on each other to thrive. This is a communal landscape just like ours. And as the tree of life forms a core metaphor for Torah and a divine representation of our bodies in Jewish mystical tradition, so too are the very scrolls that we use to build this tree reminiscent of Torah scrolls. Each is imbued with a question, an answer, or a prayer from your heart, like notes tucked into the holy spaces of the Western Wall in Jerusalem. The trees, the leaves, the components of the forest community work together so that all may thrive. Let us too take what we have learned and built together this week into a nurturing, collaborative, supportive, and healthy environment in which to grow. Let's go places together. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Eric Fingerhut, President and CEO of the Jewish Federations of North America.
So good morning, good morning. So, it's a tradition at these closing plenaries of a conference that you're supposed to try to summarize the lessons learned at the conference. But as Yoshi just demonstrated, this is the easiest job of all time because our theme has been collaboration. And we don't have to go far to figure out how we have demonstrated that. In fact, let's start with the very obvious fact that if we were behaving the way we usually behave, we would be at two different conferences, right? There would be a JPro conference, and there would be a Jewish Federation's Professional Conference. We'd probably be in two different cities. We'd probably be at two different weekends, likely. And maybe there'd be 600 people at each conference, though I actually doubt that that would be the case. Instead, here we are together, 1,200 strong at this combined collaborative effort. So give yourselves a great hand for that. Kol hakavod to everybody involved. And you've got to let me take just a moment of personal organizational privilege, in addition to thanking our great collaborators and you, Elena Eisen, and your team at JPro. Allow me to thank my incredible leadership team at JFNA that has helped make this happen. Thank you to Shira Hutt. Thank you to Liz Fisher. Thank you to Jess Balboni. Thank you to Rebecca Sowers, to Delaney Stock, and and Lindsay Matloff, who's just set me up on stage. Thanks to all of you for the hard work that made this conference happen. But that's not, of course, the end of the collaborations we demonstrated. We have our community delegations. This is an extraordinary thing. You Jewish professionals from the same city, but from different organizations, traveled here together, eating together, yes, drinking together, I saw you, and building those essential bonds that enable you to go back home and serve your communities better. So let's say thank you to Ann Arbor, to Atlanta, to Austin, to Baltimore, to Boston, to Broward County, to Buffalo, to Charlotte, to Chicago, to Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, Detroit, Greensboro, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Miami, Montreal, Nevada, New York City, Palm Beach, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Richmond, San Antonio, San Diego, Toronto, and Washington, D.C. Thank you all for modeling collaboration. And that's not the end of collaboration, because there are over 400 different organizations that are represented here today. I know you can't read this, but that's the point. Learning about each other's work, discussing opportunities on how to work together. And of course, there has also been just the wonderful time that we've had at this conference to get to know each other. Now, we are a diverse bunch of folks. And I'm not just talking about our identities, which are of course diverse, but I'm especially talking about the professional paths that brought us to this room as Jewish professionals. Now, I have to say that this is a little bit personal for me today because my professional path literally began across the street from this convention center. This is at Cleveland City Hall. This is a picture of me working with the mayor of Cleveland, then Mike White, captured in the Cleveland Plain Dealer on January 5th, 1990. Yes, do the math. And my journey took me from there to having the privilege of representing this community in the United States Congress. That was then Speaker of the House, Tom Foley, swearing me into Congress, and that's my beautiful mother standing behind me. By the way, I didn't go out to look for a picture of my mother. There is not a picture I have of any important event in my life that my mother's not already in. My journey took me to a career in higher education. That's me off to your right, in I think somewhere around 2009 as chancellor of the university system in Ohio. And it was only after that stop that I had the privilege of joining Hillel in 2013. Now, my journey as a Jewish professional, which began at Hillel, has now gone from campus to just last week sitting in the Israeli Field Hospital in Ukraine with Erica Rudin-Luria and other great leaders of this community to learn about our community's incredible relief efforts in this humanitarian crisis. So as I said, we all had different paths, but I can tell you unequivocally, with total certainty, that there is no more important place to be today than in the Jewish professional world, and there is no better way to make an impact on our world today than as a Jewish professional. Thank you for all you are doing. Together, we are building flourishing Jewish communities. We are building communities that are healthy. We are building communities that are safe. We are building communities that are caring. We are building communities that are welcoming and inclusive. We are building communities that are educated and engaged. We are building communities that are active in the broader society in which we live. And we are building communities that are deeply connected to Israel and the global Jewish people. Now, many of you know that there's a tradition of studying the teachings of our fathers, the Pirkei Avot, during the weeks between Passover and Shavuot. So let's follow that tradition today for a moment and go to one of the better known Mishnahot, teachings of Pirkei Avot, which is given in the name of Yehoshua ben Parachia, and it's a three-part teaching. The first, Aseh lecha rav, find yourself a teacher. Uknei lecha chaver, and acquire for yourself a friend. Vehevidan et kol ha'adam l'chaf zechut. And thirdly, judge each person according to their merits. Now, the most traditional interpretation given to this teaching is that it represents three different kinds of relationships that we should all have, right? We need to have teachers, mentors, role models, people that we look up to that are showing us the path that we want to follow. We need friends, companions who walk beside us, equally sharing with us in life's challenges, personal and professional. And then we have all the people we work with, all of our acquaintances, who we come in contact with, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, sometimes rarely, but treating them with respect and with the love to which they are entitled. Now I hope and I believe that we have formed all three types of these relationships in this room and at this conference. We have found leaders and role models who we want as our teachers. We have found friends who we want to walk through this professional and personal life with together. And even those of whom we have just become acquainted, we respect them and we appreciate their contributions to our broader communal effort. And so now, as we leave this conference, let's take those relationships and let's take our collaborative spirit that we've built and let's do what only a rising Jewish professional field can do. We can go out and we can change the world together. So we started this conference at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I was thinking that it's actually Yom HaAtzmaut already in Israel. So we should probably end with a classic Israeli song to round it out. Ani ve'ata nishaneh et ha'olam. You and I together, we will change the world. We turn it up a little bit. Ani ve'ata nishaneh et ha'olam. Ani ve'ata az yavo'u bar kulam. Amru et kodem lefanai lo nishaneh. Ani ve'ata nishaneh et ha'olam. So my friends, as you leave here, travel safe, get some rest, stay healthy, and I love you all. It is now my unbelievable pleasure to introduce to you formally in this final plenary the two professionals who had the most to do with this incredible conference, whose vision, whose style, whose creativity and whose collaborative spirit made this all possible, the CEO of JPro, Alana Azen, and the Executive Vice President of the Jewish Federations of North America, my colleague, Fingerhut.
I can't believe
we're
it's
almost at the
almost
end of
over.
I'm sorry,
Go
Alana,
ahead,
you were
Shira.
saying. Thank you, Alana. And hello, everyone. Alana and I joke that we've worked so closely together that we can finish each other's thoughts. As Eric just said, collaboration is not just the theme of this conference, but it has been the force that has made it all possible.
We keep saying that this whole thing is very meta, collaborating on a conference about collaboration.
One of the positive outcomes of the last difficult 2 years has been that many organizations in our sector have formed and advanced powerful collaborations. There was a lot of collaboration that predated the pandemic, and now we see it as a dominant mode. It's wonderful to look around this room and see so many collaborations that my colleagues and I have been part of, and so many other collaborations that I admire so much.
For the next few minutes, Shira and I want to talk about this collaboration, JPro and JFNA, combining 3 smaller conferences together to make one that is literally larger than the sum of its parts. I believe passionately that if we, the collective we, each one of us, are going to get serious about working together more and better, we need to get real about what makes collaboration so hard. So, we are going to walk the talk and get vulnerable about what it was really like for 2 separate organizations to plan and run a conference hand in hand.
The genesis of this collaboration was actually another collaboration. In mid-2020, JPro and JFNA developed a program called RISE, a suite of services for Jewish community professionals who were laid off or furloughed during the early months of the pandemic. The 18-month initiative served hundreds of job seekers. In retrospect, partnering on this conference would not have been possible if we had not built trust before taking on something as high stakes as a shared sector-wide event. A little over a year ago, Alana and I started talking about running JPro22 and JFNA's 2 annual professional conferences side by side, one after the other, separate but coordinated, a little bit of give and a little bit of take. We were ironing out the details, but something wasn't quite sitting well with me.
I remember where I was when Shira suggested to me that we consider combining FTPI, FedPro, and JPro22 into one gathering. It was the stage of the pandemic when my family felt like the walls were closing in on us, and I was working from my bedroom floor because it was the only place where I could steer clear of my very needy office mates, at the time 6 and 8 years old. The moment is stamped in my memory because my first reaction to Shira's proposal was honestly more anxiety than excitement. After the success of JPro19, it felt like a huge risk to give up full control of something that we had done to do something more ambitious together.
And I empathized with Alana's hesitation and knew that if this was really going to happen, both organizations would be giving something up. JFNA has a staff of more than 150 professionals, and JPro has a staff of 5, soon to be 6. On one hand, we could bring complementary strengths and assets to the table. And on the other hand, we had radically different structures and cultures.
We agreed to a full partnership and laid out the details in a comprehensive agreement. But we all know that agreements can't capture the nuance of how something is actually going to play out. We also understood that there was no way that our contributions could be equal in every case.
JFNA had to give up some ownership of the Federation System's annual professional conferences, and we had to grapple with our readiness to fully integrate our conference brands for the greater good, even when it meant having people ask members of our team if they were heading to the JPro conference this year.
There were 550 people at JPro19 in Detroit, and we had planned and budgeted to grow to 750 at JPro22. When Shira told us that JFNA wanted to recruit 500 Federation professionals, we realized that it wouldn't be possible to maintain our cap and still run a field-wide conference. So we took a deep breath and agreed to nearly double from our last conference. We set out to recruit a total of 1,000 participants, half from the Federation system and half from the rest of the field. But I was nervous about the financial and operational risks, especially during COVID, and our staff and board were only prepared to take the big leap of faith because JFNA was all in.
We had the sense that our teams would work well together, but the chemistry and excitement from the core team right from the start reassured us that we had made the right choice. Of course, there were moments of disagreement. We found that in this full-on partnership, keeping score is not possible or constructive, but a broader commitment to equity and candid conversation is vital.
Also, like in a marriage, gratitude was key. Even when there were pain points, every single member of both teams was digging so deep to make this conference exceptional, and no amount of thanks could have been equal to the gifts that JPro was receiving from JFNA and vice versa. And, like in any close relationship, we learned a lot about ourselves. One of my growing edges was discerning when to trust and when to push back, when to give feedback, and when to let things go. I think the partnership was resilient because we worked through moments of tension, really digging into questions like health and safety protocols, division of labor, and decision-making authority, rather than sweeping them under the rug. Also early on, the teams agreed to be direct rather than grumbling about the other organization behind closed doors.
That's right. It's so much easier to give feedback for the third or fourth time than it is for the first. So we had to practice. I appreciated that Alana often ended our check-ins asking if I had any concerns about the process or our working relationship. Making feedback a regular practice gave us a way to talk about difficult issues before they could disrupt the work or the conference planning. And speaking of the conference, which will be officially wrapping up in less than an hour, Alana remembers where she was sitting where we first discussed the partnership. I remember the call that we had where Alana told me 2 months before the conference, not only did we exceed our goal of reaching 1,000 participants, but that we were at 1,200, the maximum capacity for the space. It took commitment to exceed our goals. Collaboration made this conference about collaboration possible. Appreciation was a part of the bedrock of this partnership, so it's only fitting to close with some very important thank yous. On behalf of JFNA, I could not be more grateful to the board and staff of JPro. Thank you for leaping into this partnership wholeheartedly. The JPro staff worked tirelessly on making this conference come together, and I'm so grateful for their creativity, inclusivity, process orientation, and commitment that the in partnership with JFNA was built into every part of JPro22.
And on behalf of JPro, I get to thank JFNA. Thank you for dreaming big, for trusting us, and for sharing your incredible resources, capacity, and talent with us. Thank you for adjusting yourselves to our culture and ways of working. And thank you to all of the JFNA colleagues who we have been working with so closely. You have become honorary members of our staff and cherished friends. In particular, we want to recognize the team from JFNA's Mandel Center for being our key partners, in addition to Shira in this endeavor. There are more than 20 other members of the JFNA staff who had an active roles in planning this conference, and over 40 more who are here, all of whom have lent a hand to this huge event.
JFNA and JPro were floored by the team at the Jewish Federation of Cleveland. Hosting this conference came so naturally to you. You gave, and then you gave some more. It was a true privilege to work with you, and you have set a very high bar for the next community that hosts this conference.
Be warned. Thank you to our chairs. We asked you to give a bit of your time, some of your wisdom, and to be advocates for this conference. You gave us 10 times more than what we asked for. Thank you for walking the talk of putting talent first by taking on this major volunteer role.
And we are also so grateful for our unofficial 6th conference chair, Audra Berg, JPro's board chair, and the new CEO of the Jewish Federation of Broward County. Let's hear it up for Audra. Audra, your support for this partnership was invaluable, and we were so lucky to have someone who was able to speak fluently in the language of both Federation and JPro.
Audra is concluding the 3rd year of her 2-year term as chair of the JPro board. It's true. Audra has been on the board of JPro for nearly 2 decades. Lucky for me that we updated our term limits only after Audra took the helm. Being the chair of any Jewish organization during the last few years has been a wild ride. JPro has experienced significant growth, which inherently includes growing pains. Audra has been an ideal partner for me and has become a trusted confidant and advisor. She stewarded JPro through some very stormy waters toward bright new horizons. Audra, it is completely in line with your passion for supporting professionals, investing in their growth, that I get to invite you to the stage now to present the 2022 JPro Young Professional Awards.
Good morning. I could not be more thrilled to stand in front of you today. For me, JPro has been a labor of love over 15 years in the making. In the past 3 years, JPro has grown to more than 300 affiliated organizations and has gone from serving fewer than 500 professionals in 2017 to over 2,000 professionals in 2020. As one recent well-advised participant said, "Well-advised helped set me up for success in my new workplace by helping me find the language to communicate and advocate for what I need." This is why JPro exists, to serve not just our colleagues, but the field. It is why I have served on this board as a member, officer, and as your chair for as long as I have. It's because this is where I knew I could make a difference. And to you, our young professionals, you now have your opportunity to make an impact on our field. JPro has been honoring outstanding young professionals for 50 years, going all the way back to 1972. I'm moved to think that some of our earliest winners are now retired, and many of them have been friends and mentors to me and my colleagues. JPro celebrates excellent young professionals to elevate our field. The stories of our honorees tell the story of the meaning and impact of the work that we are all privileged to do. In the past, JPro has had 2 or 3 Young Professional Award winners. This year, we are celebrating 6. 2 emerging professionals who are under 30 and under, and 4 young professionals under 40. Why so many winners, you ask? First, we received more nominations than ever before, each one inspiring and worthy of recognition. Second, the Young Professional Award used to be annual and now takes place exclusively at this conference. Third, our field is vast and includes many organizations, roles, and different kinds of leaders. To tell the story of us, the meaning and power and possibility of a career in the Jewish nonprofit sector, we needed to weave together more individual stories. The assessment process for the awards was robust. 4 reviewers scored each nomination using a common rubric. The awards committee read and scored the highest average scoring nominations and selected the winners. When I learned about this year's winners, I was awakened to all the ways that our field has evolved and grown since I started my first job at JUF in 1995. Please turn to the screen to learn about the 2022 JPro Young Professional Award winners.
There is no such thing as a typical day at UJA, especially at UJA Genesis. Every day, which is a big reason why I love my job, every day is different. As soon as the pandemic hit in March 2020, we immediately recognized this is going to be a big problem for people who are already vulnerable. Seniors, Holocaust survivors who are stuck at home, even students. Pretty much overnight, we set up something called our Community Food Share Program, where we send grocery boxes full of food to people who were in need on an ongoing basis for about 16 months. Everyone really felt like we were in this together and the community was behind them. I was very lucky to grow up in the Sephardic Jewish community in Toronto, that I get to give back to that community that raised me and inspired me and motivated me. What an honor to be able to work and give back to helping it thrive.
My passion is really about creating caring communities within Jewish camps. And a piece of that is mental health. If you're going to take people on a journey of character development and self-discovery and growth, we should be treating mental health the same way as physical health, so that as they're going through a vulnerable process, they can flourish and thrive. One of the great things that I've gotten to do in this role is to weave networks of mental health experts, camp professionals, to connect with one another, to create best practices to then share back out to the field. During the pandemic, part of my work is launching the first Jewish camp mental health and wellness internship. Interns are now going on to be graduate student fellows, and we're hoping will go on to be mental health professionals at Jewish camps, at Jewish day schools, on Hillel campuses, making sure that we can all be our full selves. We have to start the work now, which takes a lot of hands, and hands are always happier when we're working together.
I often call myself a connector. I connect people to the resources that they need to increase capacity to make bigger and better programming. I love that my work within the Jewish community provides information and resources and best practices to people who are enthusiastic about making change. I love when I have a conversation with someone and they go, "That's so simple. Is that really something that I can do?" And I say, "Yes, absolutely." JProud is the Greater Philadelphia Consortium of Jewish organizations committed to LGBTQ inclusivity. More than 40 organizations and counting who want to work together as a community to create programming and learning opportunities and welcoming moments for LGBTQ identifying Jews. This is the best job I've ever had because I get to be my entire authentic self, my queer Jewish self. I get to make the world a better place through my Jewish values. And it feels like such a privilege to be in this highly public position where I get to live my authentic self and support my community.
There are pathways into Jewish life, no matter who you are and where you enter. 18 Doors is an organization that exists to empower Jews in interfaith relationships and also works really hard to encourage Jewish community organizations to include and embrace them. When I first started exploring what it would mean for me to be a Jewish community professional, the work of 18 Doors really spoke to me. I myself come from an interfaith family. My mother is Jewish, my father is not. His family is Black and from the Bahamas. Really, the community that I was looking for as a kid didn't exist and really has come to exist due to the hard work of organizations like 18 Doors. To be honored in this way just proves that the Jewish community has changed in ways where people like me are considered valued contributors. So much of my career has been thanks to the people I've met along the way. I actually had my first interview for my job at 18 Doors sitting at the last JPro conference. In my day-to-day now, I am like the chief Jewish community relationship builder, and that is really exciting.
Sexual abuse in our communities, harassment, discrimination, these are such pervasive issues. Whatever great idea we have about inspiring the next generation or about education, about spirituality, about wellness, about social justice, none of that can take root if our institutions aren't safe. At Sacred Spaces, we do our work in three primary ways. One is prevention. The second is response. The third is with resource development and thought leadership. We're able today, in just a few short years, to reach thousands of people across North America. We can get a case having to do with a preschool child or somebody very young, to a teenager, to a gap year program, to adults in the workplace, all the way up through elder abuse. In the beginning, what kept me up at night was whether we could do it. Could I make it happen? How do you go about fundraising? For every naysayer, there are 9 people who are ready to jump in the boat with you, who are going to champion your cause and your work in the world. None of us holds the answer to everything, but just by plugging away and steady work, I really do believe that when each of us is doing that, we can change the world.
The mission of JQI is to support LGBTQ youth who come from Orthodox, Hasidic, and Sephardi Mizrahi homes. I started in JQI as a participant and got involved. The resources that we have at JQI are resources that you really can't find anywhere else. It's really important that JQI exists so that people know that they're not alone. We work with people who struggle with self-harm and suicidal ideation, and also, at the same time, we make sure that we are a place that is a place of joy and happiness. Over COVID, we launched the JQI app, which is a place for the global Jewish queer community to connect. We have people from over 19 different countries who are active users. There are different groups where we are able to, celebrate together as a community. I would describe myself as someone who is a maker and a builder. When I got to JQI, it was a volunteer-run, small organization, and I made it my mission to build this into an organization that was bigger than it was, that was taken more seriously, and I'm so honored to be recognized for that. Being in the Jewish nonprofit space is fascinating and interesting and challenging and rewarding. Doing the things that you love, fighting for the things that you believe in is always worth it, no matter how challenging it may be to get there.
Esther, Galia, Jill, Rachel, Shira, Tema, thank you for your leadership, your commitment, and for the example you set for the field. Thank you for taking risks, building community, and your commitment to the people who you serve. We are proud and grateful to be celebrating each of you today. In recognition of all that you do, we have selected a piece of art for each of you. To tell us about the individual pieces of art, we're going to hear from one of your close colleagues.
I am presenting this award on behalf of Jody Bromberg, CEO of 18 Doors, who had planned to be here with us this afternoon. I'm sharing, with Jody's permission, that she contracted COVID and is so sorry that she is not able to be with us. Temma Smith and I both live in Toronto and have a relationship that's special to me, so it is personally meaningful to read Jody's remarks. Quote, I had the privilege of working with Temma Smith for almost 2.5 years through this past January when Temma moved to a new role at ADL. Temma works tirelessly to make our Jewish and global communities welcoming to all. The artwork designed for her encircles the earth with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel's 3 pillars: justice, truth, and peace. Temma's work to diversify, break down barriers, and cultivate inclusion is leading us closer to a welcoming, safe, and expansive Jewish community. Her understanding of the complexities and nuance of diversity and the fundamentals of inclusion and belonging are sophisticated and smart, and one that we can all look forward to continuing to learn from and with for years to come.
My name is Mark S. Young, Vice President of Talent Strategy and Director of J-Response at JCC Association of North America. Shira Berkovitz and I have been colleagues and friends for nearly a decade, and I have the privilege to collaborate closely with Shira and her team in her work at Sacred Spaces. There is much to admire about Shira, notably her tenacity, courage, brilliance, and perseverance. Shira's creation of Sacred Spaces is an embodiment of the text of Isaiah, which implores the Israelites to devote themselves to justice and support those victimized by abuse and neglect. Shira's work both inside and outside the Jewish community has led to large-scale organizational changes across 5 different continents. She works tirelessly in search of justice and a better way forward, while championing victims that may not have their own voice. We are all the beneficiaries of Sacred Spaces and Shira's hard work and leadership.
Hi, my name is Renanit Levy. I'm a Jewish communal development and institutional advancement consultant. It has been my honor to work closely with Rachel Freed for the past 8 months. Rachel's guiding principle from Pirkei Avot, "In a place with no leaders, strive to be a leader," is in the center of the artwork that we are presenting to her today. Through her work at JQY, Rachel is committed to ensuring that the voices of Jewish LGBTQ youth from Orthodox, Hasidic, Sephardi, and Mizrahi communities are heard and celebrated, and that these youth feel safe, supported, and free to be their full selves. Rachel works hard to ensure that all the parts of each young person's identity are valued and nurtured. Every day, Rachel shows us, through her work ethic, smarts, creativity, and good humor, what it means to empower each young person to shine their brightest.
Hi, Esther. Hi, my name is Ryla Bramer. I'm the Executive Director of UJA Genesis at UJA Federation of Greater Toronto. I'm really honored to be here today presenting this piece of art down there to Esther. Esther is one of the 2 recipients of the Emerging Professional, but Esther is in fact wise beyond her years and far more experienced than the experience she has had to date, so she could be receiving any award today. Esther demonstrates kindness, compassion, and care in everything that she does at a time of so much turmoil. Esther piloted her own baby, which was our accelerator program, which has allowed hundreds of teenagers who were languishing during the pandemic alone in their rooms to be mobilized, to help, to learn, and to become strong community leaders at a time when they needed community the most. Esther's art says, "The one who believes need not fear." Esther uses that to take risks, and I think it is her belief in herself, her community, the work at Federation, Jewish peoplehood, and the fact that she can play a small role in making the world a better place. So Esther, congratulations.
My name is Addie Lewis Klein, and I'm the Senior Director of Leadership and Community Development at the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia. It has been my pleasure to get to know Galia through her involvement with our local JPro Advisory Committee and to witness her masterful relational and facilitation skills at work as she leads JProud, a coalition of Jewish organizations committed to increasing supportive spaces for LGBTQ+ individuals and their allies in the Jewish community. Galia's determination to leave the world a better place is reflected in the quote, "The work is not yours to complete, but neither are you free to desist from it," and that quote is incorporated into her artwork. Galia works tirelessly to educate both within and about the LGBTQ+ community. The rainbows in the background of Galia's piece are a symbol of her work in the LGBTQ+ space and a nod of hope to the fruits of her efforts.
Last but not least, Jill. My name is Julie Finkelstein. I'm the Senior Director of Program Strategy and Innovation at Foundation for Jewish Camp. I first met Jill Goldstein-Smith almost 20 years ago when she was a Hillel student leader on campus. And I've had the privilege of working with Jill at FJC and being her biggest fan since 2015. Like so many of you here, I have learned so much from Jill's positivity, her punny humor, and deep commitment to excellence. Jill's art is a symbolic interpretation of the Hebrew root of the word shalom, peace. Through her work in professional development and leadership programming, Jill makes space for the whole person. Her attention to mental, spiritual, social, and emotional health enables people to be their full selves. In the piece that Jill is receiving in honor of her award, there's a gentle cradling of the world, which symbolizes how we're all interdependent and responsible for one another. Jill helps us show up as our full selves so the fabric of our communities and world can be complete.
Thank you. Now I have the privilege of inviting our honorees to the stage where they will receive personal congratulations. As they come to the stage, I want to thank Jenny Kaplan, the artist who created these beautiful pieces. Today is incredibly special for me as I conclude my term as chair of the JPro board, but also as I've begun my own professional transition after 21 years at JUF in Chicago and begin a new role as the CEO of the Jewish Federation of Broward County. I am grateful to the friends and colleagues in each of these organizations who have held me up, supported me, and encouraged me to lead. I hope that each of you is as fortunate as I have been to find true community in this work. Join me now to see what we've begun together at this conference.
It's important for me to attend JPro because I love networking, especially connecting with other Jewish professionals in the field.
I think it's important to come to JPro because I get to meet people throughout the field who have different backgrounds, who have different roles and professional responsibilities, and make connections and hear new ideas.
Well, it's important for me to attend JPro as a Clevelander, with it being here in Cleveland, wanting to support my city. Also as a Jewish professional, wanting to stay engaged and learn from my colleagues.
I really wanted to attend JPro because I thought that it would provide me with a really unique and powerful opportunity to collaborate with a community of like-minded people.
There isn't really another convening like this in our sector that brings people who do different types of roles, sit at different levels within their organization.
Part of JPro is collaboration, connection, and the commitment to continually serving Jewish communities throughout the country.
After JPro, I hope to be able to bring back some best practices to my community, to hear what's going on in other communities, what's working, what's not, and to adapt and modify that to our local community to see what we can improve upon and do a better job on.
I believe that the Jewish community is a beautiful place to be in. There's so much diversity, there's so much richness of thought, and it's really, I feel like, an honor to be in such a really amazing group of people.
To close out JPro22, Going Places Together in partnership with the Jewish Federations of North America, please welcome three of our chairs, Tamara Fish, Michael Hoffman, and Rabbi Deborah Waxman.
Much better than that. Give yourself a bigger applause. Yes. So, how to capture the essence of JPro22 in one moment? I couldn't do it. So I thought, wait a minute, what qualities infuse this entire conference from beginning to this moment right now? And there are four of them. 1, laughter. 2, deep learning. 3, joy. And 4, fierce whimsy. You did this. You made this a conference like no other. Thank you, and take that with you when you go. But before you do,
there's so much I've loved about this conference, the big gatherings, the learning in the classroom, the hallway conversations that we've so missed over the last couple of years. I want to raise up a special moment in the midst of 1,200 people, a conversation yesterday morning over breakfast with folks who are either working in the synagogue sector or who are adjacent to it, where we got to spend 90 minutes in extended, thoughtful conversation, sharing pain points, sharing aspirations, and really learning together.
I am reminded about the power of our community, of our professional community, our ability to come together, to learn, to connect, to reconnect with each other, to inspire each other, And I'm reminded that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, our organizations. We are part of a professional community that consists of thousands and thousands across our country and around the world, and we're all here to inspire each other, and most importantly, we are here to help elevate each other. So now's the time to make sure that we take everything that we've given and that we have received over the past 2 days and turn it into action and application in the weeks and months ahead. JPro and the Jewish Federations of North America have 2 important asks of all of you. First, please tell us how we did. Please complete the evaluation. You know better than anybody about how vital your feedback is. Please tell us where we exceeded your expectations. Please tell us where you feel that we can improve, because we want to make sure that the next conference that is planned continues to be as exceptional and as inspirational as the one that we have been able to participate in over the past couple of days. And 2, don't forget about encore workshops. Watch for your next Togethergram for a reminder about all of the details.
As you all now know, our framework for building our skills and commitment levels to collaborate better has 4 levels: personal, interpersonal, organizational, interorganizational. Now, please look back at your playbook. At the pages that list our key concepts for this conference. Yes, you can do that now, if you've got them. As Shira and Elena said earlier, we need to get real about what makes collaboration difficult, what makes it hard. Which of these is hard for you? Which is your growing edge? As Jen Weinstock has said yesterday, making change often comes with some fear. Let's all commit to taking some risks so that each of us, our colleagues, our organizations, and the whole field can collaborate better.
I'm waiting a second as you write. We are at the end of this amazing conference, JPro22, Going Places Together in partnership with the Jewish Federations of North America. Whew. On behalf of all the conference chairs, we want to express our deep appreciation for Ilana Azin and Shira Hutt and their extraordinary staffs, along with the team at the Cleveland Jewish Federation, for the extraordinary work that you have done. All of you, please stand up so that we can acknowledge you. We also want to offer our deepest appreciation for all the volunteers, all the speakers and teachers, and to all of you for your wholehearted participation. We hope that over these last few days, you have gone on powerful journeys in your own professional development, in learning about the field, in the deepening of relationships, and in the explorations of potential collaborations. The conference is ending, but not the learning and not the collaboration. As we take our leave from each other, as we head home to cities across the United States and Canada, it's on all of us to make certain that we will all keep going places together. So a blessing for our departure. Our ancestors lived in times when travel was fraught with danger, robbers on the road, wild animals, exposure to inclement weather. They composed Tfilat HaDerech, a prayer for safe journey. We too feel our vulnerability, perhaps especially when we leave a place like this conference. Indulge me, I'm a rabbi if I call what we have created together, the connections and the collaborations and the community building, if I call it holy. We feel vulnerable when we leave a place that is safe, a place that is holy, and we venture out into the unknown. So we'll head off on this next phase of our journeys with an interpretation of the traditional Tfilat HaDerech. It's found in the Reconstructionist Daily Prayer Book and was written by Rabbi Sheila Peltz-Weinberg. A prayer for the journey. We could say it every day when we first leave the soft warmth of our beds and don't know for sure if we'll return at night. When we get in the trains, planes, and automobiles and put our lives in the hands of many strangers. When we leave our homes for a day, a week, a month, or more, will we return to a peaceful home, untouched by fire, flood, or crime? How will our travels change us? What gives us the courage to go through that door? A prayer for the journey. For the journey we take in this fragile vessel of flesh. A finite number of years, and we will reach the unknown where it all began. Every life, every day, every hour is a journey. In the travel is the discovery, the wisdom, the joy. Every life, every day, every hour is a journey. In the travel is the reward, the peace, the blessing. Seitchem l'shalom, go in peace and wholeness and safety. Stay connected, stay well.